Protecting those who protect our nation. They are the men and women who defend military bases at home and overseas. With uncertainty over the U.S.-Iran conflict, their role more important than ever. Tonight, a KENS 5 exclusive look at the Security Forces Academy. Eyewitness News reporter Sharon takes us inside.
Protect, defend, and fight. That's the mission of Air Force Security Forces.
Everybody knows that being a police officer, even on a military installation, is not the safest job in the world.
Airmen undergo months of rigorous training. Today's focus, combative skills.
So all of these moves derive from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They learn how to defend themselves through good body position. They learn how to do submissions and escapes. Students are broken up into about 8 different squads.
Two unique visitors came to the base today.
To me, it's a pleasure. I'm just excited.
These professional wrestling superstars. They got a first-hand look at how these airmen fill one of the toughest jobs in the Air Force.
Especially see women out there doing it equal to, if not better than the men sometimes. It's very empowering.
Once these men and women are done with training, they'll be protecting bases as law enforcement officers and will be responsible for missile security.
And it's important that they can control what is going on in that situation so they can keep not only themselves and their partners safe, but also everybody else on that installation safe, and by all means the Air Force and the United States as a whole.
Sharon KENS 5, Eyewitness News.